Well, we are back. Spike and Ike talk sports. There's a reason for the several day delay. On the broadcast today, our older brother JD, current high school football coach at many a local Catholic high school in Baltimore and some other great establishments. JJ Davis, former sportscaster, now living in Omaha, and then Chris Bandel, our beloved brother-in-law, who is new to the show, but I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it's been tough for him since the Ravens lost to the Chiefs. I don't want my friends to call this the show where we whined about the loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think that's what we're going to do. I want to start off. My first question, we are about a week and a day removed from the loss of the Ravens to the Chiefs in the AFC title game. How do you feel? 30 seconds or less. Chris.
Should I go first?
Go ahead.
Well, the jolt has been, I put the jolt aside after that. Went over to a friend of ours' house and all of us were watching it, about 8 of us. And to be honest, Hillary and I think, walked out on the front porch and couldn't take the last 5 minutes.
Oh,
we kind of looked at it through the window. We whined. I got to give JJ some props. He kind of called ahead of it.
Your 30 seconds is up. JD, how
hey. That's his waist. That's not
welcome to
time.
TV, Chris.
We're going to cover
right.
everything, Chris. We're going to cover everything. The question was your general feeling 7 days removed. Thank you. JD, how you been doing over this loss?
Well, you're looking at a guy who spent $800.
Oh, my God.
I forgot.
$400 a ticket.
You told me they were given to you by our nephew, our cousin.
I went with my son. There it is. His facial expression sums it up.
Yes.
Mr. Excitement.
Mr.
JJ,
Mr. Punsky.
Your thoughts, 7 days removed. You're just a general feeling.
To be honest, I'm not surprised. I'm bummed for Baltimore, the fans in Baltimore, but I'm not surprised. You read stuff after it's all over and you look up stuff. Patrick Mahomes is in his fourth Super Bowl. He's 28 years old. That's like unbelievable. Lamar Jackson's 27 and he hasn't been to one. And the Chiefs' road record, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not surprised. And I think the better team on that day won the game.
JD, what are you showing us?
The Ravens running on the field at the start of the game.
That does not fit into this part of the conversation. Chris Bandel, we're now looking at the palm of your hand.
Yeah, I'm shifting rooms here.
The show is blowing up.
It's TV.
Just like our Ravens.
Sentiment in Baltimore. You guys, except JJ and Ike, have not been listening to talk radio. What's the thought process been in Baltimore? What's everybody saying?
I don't know, Doug. Not much. I can tell you that, I think we're all just buried the hatchet and come on Orioles. Yeah, I'm serious,
Just like that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Dog, what do you think?
This was the highlight of the game. Right there. The flag.
That is the unveiling of the American.
All right. Let me say this.
So, all right. Well, let's get into it a little bit. We'll go with.
Can I say what I wanted to say?
Well, you're showing pictures, and we're trying to discuss things.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it feels to be a Baltimorean.
All right.
These days, okay? They could go 17-0 next year. They could win the first round of the playoffs again. They got one game they got to win. And we got to wait all the way to January to get there.
Yes.
They're going to go crazy on opening day. Am I right, Chris?
Oh yeah.
We'll be over Hillary and Chris's watching the game.
Yeah.
Mid-November, everybody will be saying, "Oh, they're going to the Super Bowl." Christmas Day, everybody's going to be talking about the Super Bowl, and then we're going to get into January, and then we're going to win the first round playoff game. We got one game we got to win.
Yeah.
And we got to wait till January to get it.
And you
That's how Baltimoreans are feeling.
Yeah, 11 months. Doug and I.
11 months.
Year, it's like that. 11 months. It's like
and
that.
I want to give a shout out to my cousin Sean, who got me those 2 tickets. $1,200 retail price. He sold them to me for $8.
Wow, nice.
You know, Paul, I do find it interesting that over JD's shoulder, his left shoulder is number 19. Old Johnny U, baby. He won 3 world championships, and that's why his statue's outside the ballpark. But yeah, I mean, Johnny U did it. Lamar Jackson, I hate to say it, good guy, probable MVP, the whole 9 yards, but you got to win a title.
They only ran the ball 6 times. The number 1 rushing offense in the football, in the NFL, they ran it 6 times, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of discussion on the internet about the game plan. It seems to me Odell Beckham Jr. has gone on the internet and talked about how he disagrees with Monken's game plan.
Huh.
There's been a lot written about the choice of the game plan, the fact that the Ravens only ran the ball 6 times, which really is an incredible stat. Well, is head coach John Harbaugh taking flack over all this? He's lost Mr. McDonald, his defensive coordinator. Other folks are coming in and going now. Hasn't there been any cry of Harbaugh's taking us as far as he can take us? We need a new voice in the locker room.
He's won a Super Bowl.
Thank you.
11 years ago. Right.
Who are you going to get to replace him? Who's better?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Belichick?
Yes. Bill Belichick.
No.
He'll come in and he'll want to bring in his own family in, Paul.
Bill Belichick is an acquired taste. He's an
well said, JJ. He's an acquired, and it takes a couple of years.
And in today's day and age, especially with NFL front offices,
he's a prick.
There's a reason he hasn't hired, and he's going to sit out probably next year. He's an acquired taste.
I want to remind our listeners today.
Well put, Spike, JJ.
Bill Belichick began his coaching career working in the film room for the Baltimore Colts. His father coached at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, which last time I checked is 50 miles down the road. Why wouldn't the guy who has shown you, as much as we dislike the gentleman, why wouldn't you say, John Harbaugh, you've had your shot. You got us one. We need a quarterback whisperer for Lamar Jackson, and Belichick's got the pedigree. He's proven it.
He's a quarterback whisperer?
Oh, he's a defensive star, I know, but didn't he get along well?
I've never heard that, Paul.
Didn't he get along well with the GOAT, Tom Brady, for a while?
Well, the GOAT had other coaches to assist him. And Tom Brady, I just think, had that special something that he rose to the occasion in the second half, much like that quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, who seems to get better and rise to the occasion as the game goes on. Listen, you can't fault what Bill Belichick's done. He's the second winningest coach of all time. He's won 6 Super Bowls. But let's face it, maybe in the locker room, players like him, but some necessarily didn't. So he quickly, as JD will tell you, he got rid of them. Publicly, as you and I always used to talk about, Paul, we'd hate to sit at those press conferences when he basically tells you nothing. And how many times did we say we want to stand up and say something, but we get our credential revoked?
Listen, there's an old expression.
So I don't know if he's a public relations guy. I don't think in this day and age it's very much needed. I just don't think he's the guy, Paul.
Hey, there's an old expression. You know what makes a great coach? Great players.
Amen.
There it is.
Well, so but here's my point, though. They took care in the last half of their season. Jim Nantz announced it on the broadcast that the Ravens they set a record for the point for differential with victories over teams that had winning records. The players are there. Everybody was saying this Ravens team, statistically, passing the eye test, was the team headed to the Super Bowl.
They were.
I mean, when you say the talent,
Just as the Colts were against the Jets in '69.
Hit him again, JJ. Hit him again.
but maybe that was maybe, you know what? But when you and I are little boys, we didn't do. Maybe that's what Weeb Eubank did. Maybe he outcoached Don Shula.
Paul, Paul, the Colts were 16, 17-point favorites in '69 and got beat by the Jets. I don't think, what was it, 4.5? The Chiefs were underdogs. The Ravens were favored by less than a touchdown. And the Chiefs, people didn't realize Kansas City had beaten 11 teams this year with winning records. Their pedigree is there. Their culture's there. I'm just not convinced. And of course, that championship game proved it, that the Ravens are there yet. But their coach has won a Super Bowl. He's got a very high winning percentage, and he's loved.
Paul, if you watch that second half,
I watched it today.
Our team was in panic mode the entire second half.
I just
panic mode.
I don't know if it was in panic mode. I just think the team, as I said during the game, lost its poise. 4 personal fouls. Your receiver fumbled at the goal line. The Ravens lost their poise.
Taunting,
and the Chiefs.
The taunting.
And you
the taunting, that's poise.
You just set me up. Ladies and gentlemen, watching this broadcast, today is February the 6th.
That's correct.
Just today actually watched on my DVR.
JD, what do you think it is?
The second half of the Ravens Chiefs game.
JD.
Oh, what's gotten into you? Oh my Lord.
My point is, it's fresh in my mind. The Ravens completed the ball in the third quarter, down, what was it, 17-7. Flowers caught the ball, and he got it down to the 25, but he stood up and he taunted the DB and spun the ball at his head, and the ball was backed up 15 yards. The quarter changed. Second play of the fourth quarter, Lamar hits Flowers with a pass. He lunges over the end zone and he fumbles the ball. That was
a 1 yard line.
That was a critical juncture. A few moments later in the fourth quarter, Clowney, the star from South Carolina, threw his helmet into the chin of Mahomes, and that was 15. What's my point? Poise is coached. Poise is coached. Keeping your head is coached.
And I believe I texted you that during the game. I texted you, that's coaching.
We've seen this under the Harbaugh regime. The Ravens have all
too many times.
JD, you got to be serious here. Over 10 years that we've been watching these Ravens, they have been dirty. They've been flagged. They've been their own worst enemies. And I say that's coaching.
No, I don't mean to disagree with you, but I think it's an epidemic. I think it's very symbolic of today's professional athlete. We see it all the time, and not just with the Ravens. Gosh knows we see the end zone celebrations, et cetera, et cetera. JD, how many coaches have told me that today's high school collegiate athlete is not what they were years ago? They've all a sense of entitlement. What, JD?
Peacock.
What?
They love the peacock.
Correct.
Show all their feathers.
So I don't think the Ravens are the only team, is what I'm trying to say.
No, but because of the way they, and let me tell you what Logan said to me. Dad, it's entertainment. All right, I get it. Okay. But let me tell you something. Flowers, if his old high school, you think it was the first time he peacocked like that?
Right.
No.
Exactly.
If his old high school coach had sat his little behind down on the bench.
Correct.
Maybe he doesn't do that 6-7 years later.
Correct.
I've got to remind you that Snead, I forget his first name, the DB for the Chiefs, when Flowers was lunging the ball, attempting to get to the goal line for 7 points, 6 points, Sneed reached his hand in and made Flowers fumble the ball. It was
He
a
punched it
great,
out.
it was a
Karma.
great, it was a great defensive play.
Karma.
Well, that's what I call it. Number one, it was an effort play. He made the effort, but I thought the same thing as you, JD. What goes around comes around.
Yeah. Hey, get up and thump a little bit now.
But when I watched the second half for the first time today, this afternoon,
Yeah, a week and a half later, JD.
I was amazed at how close, they really did, except for a couple of key first downs that Mahomes was able, the Raven defense did a great job in that second half.
Second half, yeah, they stopped them. Big
Yes,
time.
they
40
did.
points.
Kansas City didn't even score. That's how good
Yeah.
the Ravens defense.
Shut 'em out.
But JD, you said it right. Great, big time players come up big in big time games, right?
So here's my
Mahomes,
question.
Travis Kelce set an NFL record, the most
Oh, yeah.
touchdowns consecutively
Yeah,
in the
12
playoffs.
Hey,
catches.
if
Most
you had
consecutive-
Taylor
They
Swift
came
up
up
there
big.
all
for you,
day. Caught the
I
ball.
guarantee
JD?
you'd be trying to play really well because he's getting a little long in the tooth.
He had 12 catches, Kelce did.
Yeah,
Hey,
he was
good.
like he was
he
all
was
day
excellent.
long.
And before the game, Paul, you have not even talked about the controversy before
I
the
Yeah,
game.
you saw that,
Tucker.
JD? Did you see it?
Who was Tucker?
Tucker.
Yeah.
What-
Tucker was an asshole.
Why is Tucker thinking that he can poke the bear? Let's tell people what happened, Doug.
What happened, JD?
So Doug, you're
Mahomes-
saying he purposely put himself there to mess
He
with
lied.
Mahomes, huh?
He had his kicking gear. We're talking about Justin Tucker, the
His
Yeah, I
Raven.
know. I remember. Yeah.
He set
ahead.
his little stuff up and he was warming up,
On the 1 yard line.
but he got over where Mahomes was trying to warm up.
But they're warming up before the game. He was
And
Mahomes with
Mahomes-
his sweatsuit.
JD, normally kickers warm up near midfield.
Mahomes asked him politely if he would move. It really ticked off Mahomes and Kelce when Tucker initially gave him the hard time. But
That's
in
right.
the end, Ike, the Chiefs had the last laugh.
That's right.
We want to thank Chris and JD for joining us on the Spike and Ike talk show. They had prior engagements tonight, so they have left the broadcast. Ike, big game on Sunday. What are your thoughts? The Super Bowl.
Well, that's right. And of course, everybody's talking about it. Vegas, what a better place than to hold the Super Bowl. Las Vegas of all places. Of course, as everybody knows by now, Kansas City's fourth trip in 5 years. But the Chiefs and Mahomes are 10-1, one leading after halftime. So I think people need to remember that. And I also think that the Chiefs defense has been stellar for the most part all year, held that potent Ravens offense to 10 points. So I think that really says a lot. So remember this, Purdy and Mahomes, they showed them Monday night on NFL Network. They look like two high school quarterbacks. They look like two kids to me. Mahomes, I think, still has that aura of innocence. And Purdy was a little stiff to me. If body language means anything, he's a little stiff. So for me, I just realized after what happened in the championship games, you can't bet against Mahomes and the Chiefs and Kelce. Those big-time players have come up big in big-time games, and I expect them to do it again.
Well, I think Christian McCaffrey for the Niners is the thing that you look at. If he can bust loose, he is a crazy guy when you get him the football.
But
He
you got to remember,
barrels through.
the Chiefs have that human spark plug in Pacheco.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like every year, I remember Timmy Brown with the Redskins many, many Super Bowls ago. It seems like every year, a guy that you don't expect to attain the limelight or really to step into the fore does. So we know that those guys are going to come up or should come up big. But I'm also looking for that running back, Pacheco, to come up big. And I'm looking for maybe somebody else to star in this game of games. It always seems to happen that way, but I cannot bet against the Chiefs.
Ike, did you ever get a chance to cover a Super Bowl?
No, and I was going to ask you that, Spike. You did, right?
Well, I was working in Augusta, and that meant that anything that happened in Atlanta, I was.
Because you covered the World Series.
Well, yeah, World Series with Glavine, Schmaltz, and you name them. But I'm thinking about the Dirty Birds, the Atlanta Falcons. Dan Reeves was the head coach. I went to Florida, and they took on John Elway. And John Elway, I think that was when he got his first Super Bowl. The thing I remember about covering the Super Bowl is, of course, a lot of people don't know that working in local television sports is not as glamorous as you might
No way. No,
because of
they have
all the
no
hard
idea.
work. And I remember going down the week before, and all the reports I had to file using the satellite truck.
That's right. The old days, you had to buy the window.
I had to spend
15 minutes.
We had to spend $75 for a 5 or
15-minute window. Right.
And if you didn't hit your window, you had
That's right.
You had to call the news director up and say, "Can I spend more money for my video?"
That's right.
It was a hard week. And I remember by the time the game came, I didn't have a seat in the press box, but I was up somewhere in the nosebleed seats with the media awarded cushion and another little goodie bag of little trinkets because you'd covered the Super Bowl. And that was when Elway broke through and won his first of a couple Super Bowl titles.
And people don't realize I've never covered a Super Bowl like you. I have other friends, other TV guys that have. And of course, when you're younger, you want to cover the Super Bowl. But as I've gotten older, while of course I would have liked to have, you don't really miss it because the media frenzy. Hundreds and hundreds of credentials are handed out. Media day, when they're all asking those stupid questions and get those stupid answers at those little booths. And everybody's trying to figure out what angle, what crazy story to do. It's just a lot of work. I tell people when you go on these trips like the bowl games, they don't realize that you spend all day running down people, shooting stories, shooting B-roll. I used to bring stuff with me, music, et cetera, et cetera. And the only time you get to relax is when you've made your feed, satellite, computer, these days, whatever. And then you try to eat dinner, but you're too damn tired. And then you got to catch a flight at like 5 a.m. And everybody thinks everything's wonderful. Tell them, Spike.
And then all the stories that you didn't get on the air during the lead-up, the news director says to you, "Do you have anything left over from your trip to Florida?" So you don't get, there's no reprieve.
And you'd watch the other crews. They'd have their anchors there. They'd have cameramen and photogs. And by the time you shoot your stand-ups, you're exhausted and you look like crap. But by then, you just don't care, right, Spike?
And then you try to find your little thing of Max Factor pancake makeup.
That's so true. Hey, one thing people don't remember, who played the first championship game when we were kids?
Well, that was the Packers and the Cowboys.
Burgos Longhorn. No, us. They talk about the Kelsey brothers. Remember you and I, the Geno's Giants against the Wargos Longhorns. We played against each other in what I like to call the NFL championship game. And we were both on the line of scrimmage at 8, 9 years old. And remember, Spike, we didn't care about the game. I just wanted to beat you, remember?
We had to go up against each other.
That's correct.
And
we had beaten you during the regular season, but we lost in the championship game.
Just like the Harbaugh family, when the Niners played the Ravens all those years ago.
And I always remember you guys went to Geno's, right? Their winning team with Robinson, remember, and Jamie C. So you guys went to Geno's, and Daddy took me there to watch you guys celebrate, and we lost.
The song was "Everybody Goes to Geno's" in Baltimore, and that was in reference to Gino Marchetti.
Gino Marchetti, that's right.
Who created the franchise that became very popular all over the state of Maryland.
The good old days, Spike. The Kelsey's got nothing on us.
Ike, I've enjoyed it. The Spike and Ike Show. This is episode 4. You can call this the Whiners Show edition today because we lamented the loss of the Ravens against the mighty Kansas City Chiefs. I see the Chiefs winning on Sunday. What about you?
I see the Chiefs winning on Sunday because I've learned that you can't bet against Pat Mahomes. He plays big in the big-time games, and there's just something about him. And remember his scrambling ability. For the 49ers to have a chance, Purdy's going to have to show what he showed in that most recent championship game, his ability to make plays and get first downs and keep drives alive. If not, it's over.
course, the stat you're going to hear on the broadcast on Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, Brock Purdy, who went to college about an hour and 40 minutes
That's
north
right,
of
Spike
Maryland
Ames.
City,
Good old Ames.
Iowa State, the last player chosen in the NFL draft.
Mr. Irrelevant. And plus the fact that you know Jim Nance from your old Masters days, Spike.
Jim will be calling the broadcast, and I'll be thinking about him as he's making all those great comments.
Hey, you got better hair than him, okay?
Hey, what do you think of Romo before we go?
Well, I think when he first started, it was a revelation to all us football fans because he was actually calling the plays. And I think that's what got him, I believe, a $10 million contract. Yeah. So he was a big hit at first. Lately, he's been under fire. You know, I don't really know, but I do not like every time he goes, "That's right, Jim." You know, he pals up to Jim. "That's right, Jim. That's right, Jim." I'm like, back off, pal. You got the gig. So I just think he's okay now. Do I think he's as special as he was in the beginning? No. But do I think he's bad? No. Do I like Olsen on the Fox crew? Everybody proclaims that he's the next best thing. Yeah. But guess who's going to take his place, Spike?
I can't remember.
Tom Brady.
Yeah. The GOAT, although that.
Yeah, that's like me trying to take your place. Forget it.
I'd like to remind the audience, or at least share something before we say goodbye, that my brother, Ike J.J. Davis, is the only man I know that can lay claim to the fact that he kissed Mrs. Babe Ruth on the cheek.
Hey, it's in my book. It's in my book, JJ of Lock Raven, Amazon.com. I met Miss Babe Ruth in an Oriole game and kissed her. That's right, on the cheek.
Plug for his book.
And then some mug comes down and says, "Hey, Miss Ruth wants to see you." So I went up, saw Miss Babe Ruth. She gave me this little, remember those little baseball bat pens,
yeah.
plastic?
You lost. Yeah. You took the bat that you got from Mrs. Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Like,
hey,
with
JJ of Lock Raven, you're in it, Spike. It talks about my ill-fated career because you had a much better one than I ever did.
All right. The accolades will stop right there. Thank you, Ike. Thank you, JJ. Let's look forward to a great game. Thank all of you who have taken the time to listen to all of this rambling. Until next time, I'm Spike.
I'm Ike.
Goodbye, everybody.